Wicked hearts have sweetest smiles. Chapter 6. The following days passed by quickly. The work had Aveline in its tight grasp, although the second prince had offered her to take some time off, but she had refused vehemently yet determined. Sitting around and doing nothing surely would not help regaining her memories. It was a week after the ball when Aveline found herself once again at her desk, with folders piling on it and her notes about them laying around scattered.
Did they at least mention a reason?
Apparently, they refuse negotiations with only a third prince of the Britannian Empire, which is entirely ridiculous in my opinion.
Even before entering, Aveline could clearly hear Princess Cornelia and Prince Schneizel coming along the corridor, Cornelia speaking in a contemptuous tone, while Schneizel was as calm as ever. When stepping into the office, he gave Aveline a little smile, while his sister disregarded her by paying no attention to her at all.
Am I going right in the assumption that their intention is to lure both you and me to Japan?
Preposterously they do, yes. They mock us, Schneizel, and I won't allow that. We should head straight for their fighting forces. If Clovis is to be believed, they are positioned within the heart of Area 11. We should...
Let us not rush anything. I am aware that you and your men have been outnumbered in the latest fight with the Federation. But you, as well as they, know that there will be no match for the Glassen Knights that are going to arrive at Area 11 within the next few days. They obviously have no reason to trap us, nor are they in the position to mock us. Why start a war without meaning, when you can gain an ally without losing anything at all?
Schneizel stared at the second princess, but not in expectation or waiting for her accordance, but rather to make sure that he did not offend her. He knew his sister very well, and so he also was aware of her lust for battles and combats, but this was out of place right now. And as usual, he was right. The Viceroy of Area 18 did not seem to be very pleased about his words, but instead of starting a huge discussion about it, she just scoffed slightly and said with a patronizing tone underlining her firm voice,
Well, if you believe that is the correct strategy to deal with them, then please go ahead. But don't expect me to confront them with a smile on my face.
Did they at least mention a reason?
Apparently, they refuse negotiations with only a third prince of the Britannian Empire, which is entirely ridiculous in my opinion.
Even before entering, Aveline could clearly hear Princess Cornelia and Prince Schneizel coming along the corridor, Cornelia speaking in a contemptuous tone, while Schneizel was as calm as ever. When stepping into the office, he gave Aveline a little smile, while his sister disregarded her by paying no attention to her at all.
Am I going right in the assumption that their intention is to lure both you and me to Japan?
Preposterously they do, yes. They mock us, Schneizel, and I won't allow that. We should head straight for their fighting forces. If Clovis is to be believed, they are positioned within the heart of Area 11. We should...
Let us not rush anything. I am aware that you and your men have been outnumbered in the latest fight with the Federation. But you, as well as they, know that there will be no match for the Glassen Knights that are going to arrive at Area 11 within the next few days. They obviously have no reason to trap us, nor are they in the position to mock us. Why start a war without meaning, when you can gain an ally without losing anything at all?
Schneizel stared at the second princess, but not in expectation or waiting for her accordance, but rather to make sure that he did not offend her. He knew his sister very well, and so he also was aware of her lust for battles and combats, but this was out of place right now. And as usual, he was right. The Viceroy of Area 18 did not seem to be very pleased about his words, but instead of starting a huge discussion about it, she just scoffed slightly and said with a patronizing tone underlining her firm voice,
Well, if you believe that is the correct strategy to deal with them, then please go ahead. But don't expect me to confront them with a smile on my face.
Stating those words, Cornelia pushed back her white cloak and left the room without spending further notice on her brother nor his secretary. The moment the door closed behind her, Schneizel breathed acutely and put one of his blonde strands that has fallen to his forehead aside.
It seems like we are heading for Japan, Miss LaCroix. I hope you are prepared for a little excursion.
Are you absolutely sure you need me there, Your Highness? I don't want to be a burden.
Do you believe I intend to depart without my precious secretary?
He smirked and tilted his head a bit. Aveline returned his smile coyly while tearing off scraps of paper from one of the folders laying on her lap.
Providing that you are interested in seeing Japan.
Of course, Your Highness. It is an honor that I may join you. Will we be traveling by ship or airplane?
We will fly.
Is there any airline you prefer, or shall I make reservations at a random one?
Oh, we won't need a plane, nor an airliner.
He answered with a big grin on his perfectly swung lips and stretched his hand towards her.
Come, I want to show you.
Oh my God, this is...
Magnificent, isn't it?
Prince Schneizel stood beside her, with his hands behind his back, smiling kindly at the construct in front of them.
I've never seen anything similar. What is this?
This is the Avalon, a flying aircraft carrier and the first of its kind.
Please, tell me more.
She murmured, still gazing at a huge airship right before her as if she was stunned.
Well, it uses a float system for flight, which allows it to hover in place for an unlimited time period. It has a proud length of 200 meters and utilizes single 76mm gun-mounting missiles for attack, as well as automatic machine gun turrets spread across the hull. Several nightmare frames can be hauled on the inside, ever ready to be dropped into combat when necessary. In addition, the carrier, of course, also possesses many quarters, conference, and recreational rooms.
Aveline's admiration for this piece of technology grew with each second she watched it. She never would have imagined to see something as impressive as this in her entire life. The developers must have spent decades of trial and error.
And what about the defenses?
It features blaze luminous shielding, which can be expanded around the whole Avalon.
Astonishing.
I would love to show you the inner setting, but there are urgent matters I cannot delay under any circumstances, so I hope you can be patient and wait till tomorrow's departure.
Her excitement diminished at once and induced an emotion of disappointment within her, but she swallowed that negative sensation and answered, attempting to sound normally.
Of course, Your Highness. I understand. I shall see it tomorrow then.
Prince Schneizel stepped in front of her and examined her closely, still wearing this staggering smile that took her breath away every time anew. The very next moment, a high-pitched tone penetrated this strangely magical moment between them and let her jowls turn scarlet. He drew out the phone of his pocket.
Yes. At once? Is there no other possibility? Yes. Yes, I see. Very well. We will prepare in an instant.
Prince Schneizel put the small electronic tool away and yet again turned to his subordinate.
Seems like this is your lucky day. The Chinese Federation Endurance appears to have expired. They expect our arrival as soon as possible, which means we will depart in less than half an hour. The Avalon, as well as I, will be at your disposal.
He stated, looked at her kindly, and then sighed.
Now then, please head back to your quarters and get ready. I will await you on the Avalon.
With those words, he turned around quite quickly and moved towards one of the many entries leading into the inside of the palace. When she came aboard the Avalon only 20 minutes later, there was no second prince waiting for her in the ship's lobby. She, however, met the princesses Cornelia and Euphemia, who also travelled with them. Aveline's bag dropped onto the floor, and she too went down on her knees.
Miladies, it is a great honor that I am allowed to accompany you. If there's anything you need, please let me know. I'll be at your service at any time.
Princess Cornelia gave her a crushing look and scoffed, crossed her arms and turned away from Aveline, while her sister stared at her with outrage, but did not dare say anything. The secretary felt very offended and hurt, for she did not understand why the viceroy faced her with such rejection and hatred. Had she done something offensive, or did she misbehave in some way? Perhaps Cornelia's denial was connected with an incident in the night of the ball, an event she could not remember. The princess had never really met her with approval, but she also had never been that aggressive.
I am happy to see you again, Aveline, and I'm thankful for your attendance.
Euphemia said cheerfully to get past this negatively charged situation. She smiled back at the younger sister and took a small bow.
Forgive my ignorance, but where's Prince Schneizel? He told me he would be here when I arrive. He wanted to—
Foolish girl!
Cornelia jerked around. Her eyes glistened with hate, her lips distorted into a despicable grimace.
Were you actually inclined to believe he would have time to deal with someone of such inferior position like yourself right now? Pathetic.
The last word was spit out as if it was poisonous. Aveline was so shocked, her heart was racing, and there was a strange sensation growing inside her. With great steps she paced towards the seemingly rooted Aveline, who still only watched her in surprise.
What entitles you to believe that you are something special? Do you think you are held dear, or that you are a person of significance?
Aveline tried to withstand the penetrating gaze of her opponent, but she could not, and gaped at the brown carpeted floor beneath her.
You are nothing.
Cornelia, now solely whispering with her firm voice, still fixed her eyes on her.
You are weak? No, even more than that. You are useless. Your skills are inferior, and you are not of value. You can be replaced at any time.
The emotion Aveline had tried to suppress now burst. Her eyes teared when she looked up again, saw that Euphemia only stood behind her sister, facing the floor to evade the situation anew. Why didn't she say something? She could come at her defense, side with her, but no, she did nothing like that. The anger mixed with the verbal injury she had encountered made her cry even more.
Now get out of my sight.
Aveline winced, grabbed her bag and pressed it against her, then left through the door behind the younger princess, although she did not know where it led. Barely out of the frame had she slid down the wall, sobbing quietly. Normally she would have just stand above such insults, refusing to let them hurt her, but the main reason why she was crying so badly was not the assault on herself. It was the fear that Princess Cornelia could be entirely correct. That's what made her heart ache and bedeviled her breathing. Yes, she was right about that. Of course she had to be. After all, she was of such value and importance, a high-ranked member of the imperial family and also viceroy. But all the time she'd spent with the prince, all the conversations they had held, did they really mean nothing to him? Had he deluded her so easily? And if, how cold-hearted was he to do such a cruel thing? She interrupted her crying, eventually realizing that the feeling she had developed for His Highness was pointing into an obvious direction, one she simply could not ignore or change. No matter how much she longed to deny, that fact could not be turned away. She had fallen in love. She had admired Schneizel Britannia from the very first moment, and that admiration changed into affection with each word he spoke and each look he gave to her. But instead of enjoying that beautiful sensation, all she could feel was shame and disgust over herself. Although the indignation Cornelia had caused in her had vanished within a second as she thought of the kind smile of Prince Schneizel, a bitter aftertaste poisoned her mood. Aveline was not allowed to care about him, not because it was forbidden by law, but because she herself could not permit that. It was unprofessional, and he would never feel the same way about her, that was for sure. But what if she was wrong? Maybe, just maybe, the prince did like her as much and had not tricked her. The tears ebbed over the detection of this little hope that started to spread inside her, and soon caused a slight prickling in her entire body. All she had to do was finding out whether she was right or wrong. She arose to her feet with a firm expression in her eyes, adjusted her clothes, and made an oath to herself.